You're listening to Soundside. I'm Libby Dankman. Should the president of Seattle's teachers union keep her position? That's the question on the minds of many local teachers and parents. Last week, parents of a student of Ibijoke Idowu began the process of pursuing a civil lawsuit against the teacher and the district, claiming she had physically harmed their child. This follows a Seattle Public Schools investigation released in June, which concluded that Idowu, more likely than not, grabbed the student hard enough to cause bruising. Idowu was elected to lead the Seattle Education Association while she was on leave, pending the results of this probe. Idowu has denied allegations of misconduct. Here to discuss the investigation and the recent filing is KUOW education reporter Noel Gasca. Noel, thanks for being on Soundside.
Thanks for having me, Libby.
So tell us more about how all of this kicked off. I understand that parents who made this legal filing, their names are Ola Ibrahim and Tyson Marsh, they also instigated this initial Seattle Public Schools investigation, right? What do they say happened to their child?
So Ibrahim and Marsh allege that on the evening of December 9th, 2025, they discovered multiple new bruises on their son's body, who at the time was a third grader at Rising Star Elementary in South Beacon Hill. Their son is autistic and partially verbal and told his parents, "Miss Ibi hurt me," according to the tort claim. And Ibijoke Idowu often goes by Ibi, and Miss Ibi is a nickname that students would use. Marsh and Ibrahim reached out to the principal of Rising Star Elementary to tell her about the bruising, and in that email, they claimed that their son had been, quote, crying at night before sleeping and verbally expressing that he does not want to go to school. According to the investigation that was done by the district, the parents also noticed some finger marks on the boy's arm as early as October, and they seemed too large to be from classmates. Marsh and Ibrahim also alleged that on December 10th, the day after they discovered those new bruises, Idowu threw a marker at their child, which hit him in the face. And they found out about this after they were notified by their son's behavioral assistant. The claim also alleges that these acts of alleged abuse are part of a larger pattern of behavior by Ms. Idowu that the district failed to act on. And school districts have a duty to report on all allegations of child abuse or neglect to the police or the Department of Social and Health Services. And Marsh and Ibrahim believe school employees had a credible, reasonable cause to believe that their son was being abused before they discovered those bruise marks in December.
The district did look into this. Like I mentioned, there was an investigation. What did Seattle Public Schools determine happened here?
So SPS launched the investigation on December 11th. That's a couple of days after Ibrahim and Marsh reached out to the principal of Rising Star. And Idowu was placed on administrative leave on the 11th as well. That's according to an email sent by the principal. The investigation took several months and included interviews with over a dozen people, including Idowu. And the investigation looked at other claims of abuse or inappropriate behavior from Idowu beyond just those allegations of bruising that Marsh and Ibrahim brought up. It looked at claims that she yelled at kids, that kids flinched when she walked by, and that she once threw a book at a student. None of the people interviewed said that they witnessed the specific event that caused bruises on Ibrahim and Marsh's child, but 3 witnesses said they saw Idowu grab students in a rough manner at times, sometimes by their hand, their shirt, or their arm. But in that same investigation, at least 2 witnesses said they didn't see any unusual physical interactions between Idowu and students at all. Ultimately, the investigator did find Idowu, quote, more likely than not, grabbed Marsh's and Ibrahim's son hard enough to cause bruising. And the investigation also determined that Idowu did toss a book at a different student, which hit them in the stomach. And it also determined that Idowu would yell, "I don't care about your crying," when students would cry in front of her, and that students flinched when she walked by. It's worth adding that SPD conducted their own investigation into Idowu, and they referred it to the King County Prosecutor's Office, but they declined to press charges. The case was returned to SPD, and then SPD referred it to the City Attorney's Office. I reached out to a spokesperson for the city attorney's office, and they stated that their review is ongoing and no charging decision has been made yet.
Okay, so the district released the results of their investigation. Seattle police looked at this. King County prosecutors said, there isn't a felony involved here. They're not going to press charges. We're waiting to hear from the city's attorney's office how they proceed. In the meantime, how has this teacher, Ibijoke Idowu, responded to the investigation or its findings?
Idowu has disputed these findings both with the investigator behind the SBS investigation and in statements to the press. Idowu did not respond to my request for comment via email and phone calls, and a spokesperson for the union also did not respond to my request for comment. But in an interview with the Seattle Times, Idowu said that the report ignored witnesses who said they hadn't seen her act violently. She also said that the district violated her privacy and due process by releasing the report prior to notifying her. I did reach out to Seattle Public Schools, and in an email, a spokesperson for the district wrote, quote, "The employee is entitled to due process, and we are still in the early stages of that process. Additional facts, context, and analysis may be considered. Therefore, we are not commenting on the specifics of the case."
Okay, so the teacher denies wrongdoing. She's also questioning the way the district has approached this investigation. But now that it's completed, Noel, is she still on leave? I mean, what is her status in terms of employment with the district? Does she have a job? Is she back in the classroom?
Yeah, that's a question that I wanted to ask Idowu because it is unclear whether she's still on paid administrative leave or if she plans to return to teaching at Rising Star in the fall. I did reach out to SBS for information about this, and they did not respond to my inquiry.
So following the district's investigation, these parents, Ola Ibrahim and Tyson Marsh, filed a tort claim. And basically they're moving towards the process of a civil lawsuit here. What's going on here? What does that mean?
Mm-hmm. So in Washington state, a tort claim can be filed by any individual who's been harmed or suffered a loss due to the breach of a civil duty. So a tort claim could be against the state, it could be against its employees, it could be against officers. A person who files a tortious injury claim could be entitled to damages from the person or people that are found liable for those damages. So in this case, Ibrahim and Marsh have filed a tort claim against Seattle Public Schools and Ibijoke Idowu, and they're seeking damages for the harm, injuries, and deprivation of rights they say their son has suffered, as well as their attorney's fees. Some of the allegations Ibrahim and Marsh include in the claim allege Idowu and the district are guilty of disability discrimination, infliction of emotional distress, assault and battery, and negligence in failing to report allegations of child abuse to authorities. I asked Ibrahim and Marsh why they were taking legal action against the district and why it was important to them. Here's what they had to say.
They could have prevented so many kids from being hurt.
From my perspective, there's a culture of silence that I've been increasingly made aware of within the context of Seattle Public Schools, and I'm sure that this is a challenge in other districts as well. But as educators and adults, we have an obligation to take care of the young people that are under our supervision. And that includes if something happens, if those kids are abused or if something happens, that needs to be reported.
And like you said, this is a step towards a civil lawsuit. There's a 60-day waiting period after you file a tort claim before you can file a lawsuit. So the clock is now ticking.
I'm talking with KUOW education reporter Noel Gasca about allegations against the president of Seattle's Teachers Union, that she grabbed a student and left bruises on their arm, threw a book at another student. Those allegations have been substantiated by a district investigation. She does deny those allegations. And now some teachers in the Seattle Education Association are talking about potentially asking her to step down, recalling her from her position as the head of the union. So, Noel, Ibijoke Idowu has this new role at Seattle Education Association. She was elected in May while she was on administrative leave for this investigation that was going on. Did the allegation of abuse or the district's investigation affect her candidacy at all when she was making her case to union members?
So the union has its own bylaws which lay out who can hold a leadership position within SEA, within the union. And the requirements are straightforward. In order to serve on the board of directors, which Ibijoke Idowu does through her position as president, you have to be a member of the Seattle Education Association. And in order to be a member of the union, you have to be employed by SBS and pay your union dues. That's it. There are no rules barring a member from running for union leadership, even if they're on administrative leave like Idowu was. And it's also worth noting that Idowu did not speak to the SBS investigator until about 4 days after the results of the election were certified. But other interviews were conducted in December, January, and April, and the report itself didn't come out until after the election as well. So members didn't have a chance to review it or request a copy of it until much after.
Yeah, the report came out in June, right? And she was elected in May. So
Right.
They didn't have that information when the voting happened. So in an interview with the Seattle Times, Idowu stated that she was directed not to tell anybody about the investigation while it was happening. And she told the Times, quote, "Union members who came to me directly were informed of my leave while maintaining the integrity of the investigation." How have other union members reacted to that explanation, Noel?
So 3 weeks ago, a petition demanding to initiate a recall of Idowu was posted on change.org. And there's a statement attached to that petition. And it says that the majority of union members did not have any information about the allegations against Idowu or information about the investigation when they voted in the SEA presidential election. And because of that, members were unable to make a fully informed election decision. Right now, there are over 5,500 members of the union, and the petition has about 590 signatures right now. And that just represents about a fraction of the group. So there's space for a lot of different opinions within the union about Idowu's leadership and what to do next.
Yeah, because there's also a petition in support of her with roughly the same number of signatures, pretty close. And that petition appears to be created by a parent of a former student of Ibijoke Idowu, who notes that the teacher has made it her mission to serve Black and Brown special ed students and is, quote, "one of the few Black female teachers in our community who intimately understands the culture and educational needs of these students." The petitioner also says that by protecting her position, we are safeguarding the future of our children and taking a stand against the systemic inequities in education. I mean, they bring up an important issue here, Noel. I mean, how much do we know about how many Black women serve as special education teachers in Seattle public schools? I mean, what would be lost if Idowu is dismissed?
I don't have exact numbers on how many Black women are currently employed as special education teachers in SPS, but on a national level, the special education workforce is overwhelmingly white. In 2021, 17% of special education teachers were people of color, according to a study from the Council for Exceptional Children, which is a professional organization focused on improving education for children with disabilities. That same study found that 54% of students with disabilities are students of color. Again, I don't have the data from the district to determine whether that national trend is reflected locally, but anecdotally, comments on the petition highlight concerns that SBS parents of color have about their child losing access to an educator of color, and one that they feel provides mentorship and inclusivity for Black and Brown students.
At the same time, just underscoring this, the investigation by the district found that it was more likely than not that Idowu grabbed a student, a third grader, hard enough to leave bruises on his arm, threw a book at another student, threw a marker at the first student, would tell students, "I don't care about your crying." There were other accusations. Those were not substantiated by the district's investigation. And as I said, Idowu denies allegations of misconduct. I mean, serving Black and brown kids in special ed is an important and admirable pursuit. And as we've talked about, the lack of diversity is clearly a problem in this space. But if there's an allegation that's been substantiated that she hurt a student, will concerns about representation be enough to convince union membership to have her keep her job?
Yeah, that'll possibly be for members to decide. According to SEA's rules, a recall vote can be initiated if the petition collects signatures from at least 10% of its active members. So there's a chance that members will get the chance to weigh in on that soon. There was an update from the petition creator on Tuesday, and they stated that they had submitted the petition to the SEA Board of Directors. And we don't have any info yet on when or how the recall vote would take place, but SEA bylaws do state that a general membership meeting for the recall election must be scheduled within 60 days after the receipt of the recall petition.
And we should make clear, the job we're talking about here, whether Idowu keeps it or not, is the leadership of the Seattle Teachers Union. The issue of her employment at Seattle Public Schools is an issue for the district and potentially, an issue for the city attorney's office in Seattle as well to decide if there's going to be any legal, charges moving forward, any misdemeanor charges. So those are two separate tracks that we're talking about. Of course, this is all coming to the public eye, Noel, at a delicate time for the union. I mean, there are bargaining teams with the district and the Seattle Education Association that have been meeting to discuss a new contract since the start of the summer break in June. So, I mean, high stakes negotiations going on. I mean, could this investigation or the tort claim or any of it impact union negotiations?
It's not clear whether the tort claim or the investigation from SBS would have a direct impact on union negotiations at this time. The SEA vice president is the chair of the bargaining committee and in charge of the bargaining team. So even if there was a recall vote during contract negotiations, which seems unlikely right now, the union would not be losing its head bargainer if Idowu was recalled. But the SEA union president is seen as the official representative and the spokesperson for the association, both to members and to the general public. And at a time when the union is supposed to be presenting this unified organization built around shared values, if members can't be on the same page about their president, that presents a sticky situation. It presents a fractured image of the organization.
Yeah, I mean, if the district ultimately decides that she's not going to be employed there anymore, for example, I mean, that would be a moot point then. I mean, because she couldn't continue to be the leader of the teachers union. And we'll see how this all plays out, of course. Is all of this having an impact on the work of the union overall, Noel?
It's clear that the investigation into Idowu and its findings have currently broken the trust many members of the union may have had in Idowu when she was elected, and SEA leadership more broadly. On the flip side, supporters of Idowu within the union may also feel a loss of trust with the union and their fellow members if they see her ousted from the job.
What's next with this story, Noel?
So the district has about 50 days to respond to the tort claim that's been filed by Ibrahim Marsh and their attorney, Laura Rushka. Rushka told me that the district did acknowledge receipt of the claim last week, but as of this morning, Ibrahim and Marsh have not received any invitation to sit down with the district and find a resolution. Once the waiting period is over, Ibrahim and Marsh can file a lawsuit against Idowu and the district unless they're able to come to some sort of agreement before them. As for the student that's at the center of the story, I asked Ibrahim and Marsh whether they feel comfortable sending their son back to Rising Star Elementary in the fall when the new school year starts, which is just a few weeks away. They told me that there's a lot of wonderful teachers at Rising Star, but at this point, it would be irresponsible to send their son back to the school. Here's Ola Ibrahim again.
With regard to our son, I don't see how this ever leaves him. I think that's something that a lot of people need to consider. We could put him in the finest therapy. We can send him to the greatest school with the most loving teachers. Um, but for a kid that can go uh, on one trip and memorize how we drove there, this is not going to leave his memory.
It's just an unusual story. I mean, the teachers union president in Seattle, who was elected while on administrative leave for an investigation into alleged abuse of a student, some of that abuse having been substantiated by a district investigation, now still in limbo about the future of her job, not just as a teacher, but now as the union president. I mean, it's a lot to take in here, a lot for parents and other teachers to be considering. Noel Gasca, KUOW's education reporter, thanks for walking us through all of this.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to Soundside. Don't forget you can listen live on KUOW 94.9 FM Seattle at noon and 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, or anytime online at KUOW.org or on your favorite podcast app.